Okay, last week, Thursday, we were learning about, again, kelim shemachte le'isr, a vessel's primary use is for something forbidden. So last thing we're talking about candlesticks that weren't lit that Shabbos. If they were lit that Shabbos, completely muktzeh. The last thing we were discussing was you're not allowed to measure on Shabbos unless if it's for a mitzvah. So therefore, rulers, measuring cups, thermostats, scales, even if they're not electric, it's all kelish melachot le'isr. So if somebody wants to use a ruler for a bookmark, you're allowed to. If somebody wants to drink water from a cup that's a measuring cup, again, you'd be allowed to because you're not using it to measure, you're doing something permissible with it. The same thing, small appliances, for instance, calculators, radios, flashlights, tape recorders, all those things, again, are primarily used for something forbidden. So it's a keli shemalachte le'isr. So you wouldn't be allowed to use it, unless if you want to create something permissible with it.
But either way, it's like electric.
The din of electric, generally, the way it's paskin today, electric things are called keli shemalachte le'isr. That's the way they generally discuss is electrical. I'll give you an example. You have an electric clock near your bed, right? So it's a keli shemalachte le'isr because it's electric. But what happens if I want to move it to see the time? Or if I want to move it away, whatever. Or you have a fan, a plug-in fan, yeah? So now it's blowing to you. You want to turn it away, if you want to turn it to you, away from you. That's all called tzedach gufa. You're using it for something permissible. Yeah. So then it's not an issue. If you just want to use the electric clock because you don't want to get ruined, okay, that's a difference. Then you're not allowed to move it. But all these things, if it's used for permissible usage, then it's not muktzeh.
If you have like a tape recorder on the table and you want it to hold up in the book that you're learning, you can move the tape recorder on top of the book for you.
You mean under the book?
Yeah, no, have the tape recorder on top of the book so that, like, if it's one of those new books so the spine doesn't stay open.
Oh, you mean to keep it open?
Keep it open so you don't have to hold it.
You would be allowed to. Some poskim write if there's something else available that's not muktzeh, you preferably use that. But if there isn't anything, or there's nothing as good as that, yeah, you'd be allowed to take it and use it to hold the pages of a book down. Yes, sir.
Is the Apple Watch charges?
What?
Apple Watch.
No, only a pair watch.
Rolex watch.
Yeah, Rolex.
In your dreams, you know.
Okay. Now, what happens if you have, it's interesting, car doors, trunk doors in a car, yeah? Now, obviously, you can't open a car door on Shabbos because the light goes on. Many times you open the trunk, with the key. I'm not talking about the electric keys. That's a different story. But if somebody, the good old keys, car keys. Now, you want to open your car door, or you want to open your trunk, and you make it that the light doesn't go on. You disconnect the light, turn it off. So, in fact, there were many times people used to sleep in their cars on Shabbos. What they did is they disconnected the light. Now, the question is, the car door it's primarily made for a car. But if I want to go in there, I need the place to get into the car, or I want to get something from the car. I'll give you an example. Somebody went shopping right before Shabbos. They pulled the car into their backyard in the driveway, and they forgot something in the car. So if you open the trunk and the light goes on in the trunk, obviously you can't. Or if you've got something in the car and you want to open the car door and the light's going to go on, obviously you can't. You can ask a guy to open the door because it's only psikresha. We learned psikresha is allowed by a guy. But if the light's not going to go on, you're allowed to take something out of the trunk. You can put something into the trunk, into the car. You can sleep in the car. It's not an issue because it's not you're using the tzedach gufa. You're using it for something permissible.
But once you say that, like, if you take out the car, once you don't need it, so you can open the door.
Oh, so now the question is a good point. Now, let's say I took something out of the car. Can I close the car door? Because now I'm not using it, not the tzedach mekayme, not the tzedach gufay. So then the din is you'd be allowed to kick the car door closed or elbow the car door closed with a shinui. that you would be allowed to do.
This concept of shinui, can you use it?
No, only for Muktzeh, because Muktzeh is, the Chachamim forbade somebody to move things in the normal way.
Let's say you have electrical alarm, you forget to shut it off. And on Shabbos at 5 o'clock it goes on. How do you shut it off?
Can't.
You can. Not even with shinui.
Go sleep by the neighbors.
You sleep somewhere else. Or you put a bunch of blankets and pillows and hope it's, even then it still makes a lot of noise. Shinui, let me give you a second example, which is exactly, the light's on, I need it to be off, can I elbow it off? You can't.
Cannot.
No, because even that's asim with Rabbanon. So it's still rabbinically forbidden to do something forbidden on Shabbos with a shinui, is still rabbinically forbidden. But because the Chachamim instituted Muktzeh as a stricter thing, like we learned the 3 reasons for Muktzeh, and that you shouldn't, Shabbos should be different than the whole week, so the Chachamim said you can move it with a shinui. And by the way, we're going to learn later, not all Muktzeh could be moved with a shinui. If the shinui is for the sake of the Muktzeh, you're not allowed to move it. I mean, there's a lot of, issues with that. But generally speaking, you can move Muktzeh. Generally speaking, you can move Muktzeh with a shinui. Now you have also your car keys. Okay, so you have car keys. Car keys themselves that opens. Now, years ago, for those old guys here, they used to have 2 keys to every car. There was a key to open the door and a key to open the ignition. Remember those? See, me and you are the only old guys here. Okay, you're also old.
No, I don't.
I wasn't born because I drove your car.
Huh?
And me because I drove your car.
Okay. The cars years ago we had 2 separate doors. The car door and the ignition door. Now the car door is not a keli shemalach telis. It's like a key to your house. It's not an issue. It's not made to turn on a motor. It's made to open the door. That's not. It's a keli shemalach telis really. But now you have the key that's made only for the ignition, so it's a keli shemalach telis. So that would be not allowed to be moved, only terech gufim mekayme. Now when you have today's ignition, one second. You have today's ignition keys, not ignition, the keyless ones that open the door, that's a real keli shemalach telis. So you can't move it, only terech gufim mekayme. But in other words, you need the place, you left it on the table, you need the place, you'd be allowed to move it. But if you don't need the place, you wouldn't be allowed to move the car ignition. Or if you left it by mistake outside your door and you want to bring it in, it shouldn't get stolen, so then you wouldn't be allowed to move it. What?
So you're saying like for the engine key, like you're not even allowed to touch it?
You're not allowed to move it. Unless if you want to do something permissible with it. What do you do with an ignition key? By the way, these ignition key, these keys, not the key, the what? What? Fob. Those are even more muktzeh than a regular keli shemalach telis. It's even more muktzeh. It's probably completely 100% muktzeh. You can't move it for anything. No, but it's muktzeh machzor chsar in kiss. Those things are expensive.
This one, not like this.
Yeah, that stuff. Okay, but those. Okay, what's the difference? What it's called? You got the point.
No.
It's not called. Okay, let's not argue if it's called a fob or a shmab. What's the difference? The bottom line is things that are very expensive, and they are. To replace them is hundreds of dollars, right? So then you're not going to use this for anything else but what it's made to use. I'll give you an example. A sheichet's knife. Yeah? It's a knife. Okay? It's made for shechita, which is forbidden on Shabbos. Okay? Now, nobody's going to use a sheichet's knife, so lochayre, it's keli shemalach teili isser. It's primarily it's shechting, which is forbidden on Shabbos. But it's worse than that. Nobody's going to use a sheichet's knife to cut a piece of cheese, or to cut a piece of cake, or a lemon. Whatever, you're not going to use it for anything else but shechita. It's too valuable. It's called chesaron kis. It's a loss of money. Then that's completely muktzeh. It's very possible these keys, fabs, schmabs, dabs, whatever you want to call them, could be keli shemalachta le'isr, or muktzeh machson kis, because it's a very expensive. You're not going to use it to do it. You're not going to knock a nail into the wall with it.
Yeah.
What?
Going back to the case of the car door, two things. Could you say this since it's one continuous action, opening the door and closing it? You don't need to
It's two separate actions.
even if you're holding it, it's still going in and out.
For bishul, maybe.
No, yeah.
No,
but if you're holding it, it says muktzeh if you're holding it.
But now you're moving it again.
But if you're holding it, let's say you keep your hand on it, you'll be able to close it normally.
But you stop moving.
Is it hanacha? Once you stop moving, it's still in your hand.
It's hanocha. If you're still holding it in your hand and it's one act, then you can probably close it. Like once you have muktzeh in your hand, you can put it down where you want.
Right.
Not all muksas, most muksas. But maybe.
And can you also, if you say, I want the muckin where the door is open now, so in that case I would be able to just shut it regularly?
If you need the place, then you can shut it regularly. What are you going to create the place to do what with?
Whatever, you could come up with these things.
You can create a need for the space where the door is. Yeah, you want to walk
What do you
there.
do with the shinoi?
Then you don't have to do with a shinoi. Then it's seich mekayme. You need the place. That's why you can open the car door, because you want to get into the car.
Right.
So you need the place where the car is to get into the car. So therefore the door, you're moving it, let's say, it's not called seich gufei, it's called seich mekayme, because you need to get into the car. So the door is in the way of the car. But yeah, if you create a purpose that when the car door is open, you need to walk by over there. I don't know why. You want to look at the license plate, whatever. So then you could do that. There wouldn't be an issue.
So the question is, if you have a bunch of keys, let's say for somebody they carry in the house keys there, can he carry all of them because he needs the house key?
We'll get into that later when we learn the dinam of what's called basis, the base of muktzeh and non-muktzeh. You have a similar case, which is very shaykh. People have the talis and tefillin. Let's say you have the same talis for Shabbos that you use during the week. Come Shabbos morning, you realize I didn't take out my talis. A tefillin are muktzeh, because you're not allowed to wear tefillin on Shabbos. So tefillin are muktzeh. So now the question is, can I take out the talis and the tefillin bag? So usually you would be allowed to, because you don't have to move the tefillin bag. You just open the zipper, take out the talis, so you're not even moving the bag. If you need to move the bag to get it, you would also be allowed to, because the davar hamutar is whatever. We'll learn it later. The permissible thing is more valuable to you than the muktzeh thing, so then you would be allowed to move it. But
And phone. When we say a phone nowadays, it's no longer muktzeh machmas kids, because you use your phone as like a placeholder, as a
if somebody has an expensive phone,
it's that phone. If you take that phone,
this
a
phone,
regular smartphone, you got an iPhone.
nobody's going to do anything with it except phone functions.
Sometimes you put it in your book as a placeholder, or
Okay, that's because, they're not called that you're going to use it for other things. And it's an expensive thing. It's, again, most probable, it's still chesaron machson kis. Because you're not going to use it to knock in a nail. You're not going to use it for something. A bookmark doesn't do anything to it.
Sometimes you use it as a holder, place on top of papers, or you put it as a.
Yeah, but that's not the main use. That's not what it. So then, it's probably more. Poskim write that it's more chesaron kis because it's expensive. You're not going to use it for anything else, generally speaking. There's no difference that in 10, 20 years ago they also used that.
Laptops, for example, nowadays a lot of people, when they close their laptops, they use it as like a little placeholder for their food when it's closed.
Yeah, but then opening it is the problem.
That happens a lot.
That's definitely chesaron kis.
Even though they use it as a
Yeah,
tabletop.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, I'll give you another example. A clothes dryer. You made a wash before Shabbos, okay? You left your clothes in the dryer. Clothes that were still being dried when Shabbos began, those clothes remain muktzeh for the entire Shabbos. What happens if the clothes dryer finished an hour before Shabbos, you just didn't get around to taking out clothes, And when you open the dryer door, the light doesn't go on. Because if the light goes on, for sure you can't open it. You can ask a guy, but I'm saying you can't open it yourself. So am I allowed to open the clothes dryer door that the light doesn't go on to take out clothes that I need for Shabbos? Because it was done before Shabbos. So again, that's called Seirach Mekayme. I need the place. I need to get into the clothes dryer. The door is blocking it. I can open it.
It's like the same as the car.
Same thing like the car.
But if the light goes on, you can.
No, if the light goes on, you can't do it. You're turning on and off a light. It's okay. Next, electric clocks. It's later. Electric clocks. You can move it or a fan. Okay. You can even, let's say you have a small portable fan on the table, and you want to put something else on the table. So you need the place. So you're allowed to pick up the fan, even though it's electric. You're allowed to pick it up and
Take it aside.
put it aside because it's Serech Mekayim, the same thing. Machachin is the Meister Mechemei B'Mayim Kim Shalag Al Teira B'Chanan Makashem Ed. Not the Baruch Zak Sov V'Gechei B'Lam